The week before my 42nd birthday, Ethan kept dropping hints like breadcrumbs, teasing me with that sly grin of his. "This gift's gonna knock your socks off, Lauren," he'd say, brushing a kiss against my temple as he grabbed his coffee and headed out the door. I'd roll my eyes, but secretly I was excited. 20 years of marriage, 2 kids, and a life built from scratch. He still knew how to make me feel like a giddy college girl waiting for a surprise. So when I woke up that morning to a house so quiet it felt wrong, I figured he was up to something big. Maybe a lazy brunch with the kids, or one of those cheesy scavenger hunts he used to plan back when we were broke and creative. But the silence stretched on. No clatter of Liam sneaking cereal before I could make pancakes. No thump of Sophie's music rattling the walls. Ethan's side of the bed was cold, the sheets barely wrinkled. He'd been gone a while. I called out their names, my voice bouncing around the empty Atlanta house we'd poured our hearts into. "Ethan? Sophie? Liam?" Nothing. I slipped on my robe, the one he'd gotten me last Christmas, and padded down the hall. Their rooms were spotless. Beds made, closets half empty. My teenagers don't make their beds unless I nagged them for an hour. Something was off. By noon I was pacing the kitchen, the untouched coffee in my mug going cold. That's when I grabbed my phone and opened Instagram, more out of habit than anything else. Sophie's latest post hit me like a punch to the gut. There they were, Ethan, Sophie, Liam, smiling in front of the Eiffel Tower, the Paris skyline glittering behind them. Sophie's caption sliced through me. "Dad took us on a surprise trip because Mom's too busy writing her stuff." Too busy? I'd been home all week juggling deadlines and dinner plans, thinking we'd celebrate together. My hands shook as I scrolled through more photos. Ethan sipping wine at some fancy cafe, the kids posing by the Seine, all posted in the last 12 hours. They'd left me behind on my birthday, halfway across the world. I didn't cry, not yet. I just sat there on a kitchen stool, staring at the family photos on the wall. Us at the Grand Canyon 2 summers ago. Sophie's first debate win, Liam's goofy grin with his soccer trophy. My phone buzzed. Ethan's name flashing across the screen. I swiped it to Do Not Disturb the second I saw Sophie's post. Let him call. Let him stew. 2 hours later, my WhatsApp was a mess of unread messages, his desperation piling up like a storm cloud. "Lauren, pick up, please, I can explain. Answer the damn phone." By then I'd counted 89 missed calls, each one a little stab of satisfaction. He was freaking out, and I hadn't even done anything. Yet. I smiled, a slow, bitter thing as I thought about what I'd set in motion. See, 45 minutes earlier I'd sent an email that flipped his perfect little world upside down. His corporate email was locked out, his precious career at Horizon Advertising teetering on the edge. I'd spent the morning digging, and what I found wasn't just a spontaneous trip to Paris. It was a betrayal so deep it made my skin crawl. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to how this all started, to the quiet before the storm hit. 20 years ago, I met Ethan in a smoky newsroom at the University of Georgia. I was a junior chasing deadlines for the campus paper, and he was this cocky marketing major who'd wandered in to pitch an ad for some frat event. He had this way of talking, fast, confident, like he could sell you the moon if he tried. We clicked over late-night coffee runs, arguing about headlines and laughing at his terrible puns. Fast forward through college, a courthouse wedding, and 2 kids. Sophie came along when I was 26, Liam 2 years later. I traded my bylines for freelance writing gigs so I could be home, while Ethan climbed the ladder at Horizon Advertising, turning into the kind of guy who wore tailored suits and schmoozed clients over steak dinners. The week before my birthday, he'd been extra sweet, like he was auditioning for Husband of the Year. Monday, he brought home daisies. My favorite, not roses, because he knew me that well. Tuesday, he cooked spaghetti, grinning as Liam slurped noodles and Sophie rolled her eyes. Every morning, he'd kiss my cheek and whisper, "Your birthday's gonna be epic, Lauren, trust me." Last night, he'd even tuck the kids in early, saying, "Let Mom sleep in tomorrow, she deserves it." I lay awake after he drifted off, tracing the lines of our life in my head. The Atlanta house we'd scraped to buy, with its creaky floors and the backyard where Liam learned to kick a ball. The beach trips to Tybee Island every June. The silver bracelet he'd given me for our anniversary last month, engraved with "Forever." I wondered if my 42nd would top that. But when I woke up, the house was a ghost town. No clatter of Ethan brewing his stupidly strong coffee. No Liam sneaking his Nintendo Switch before breakfast. No Sophie blasting her playlist loud enough to wake the neighbors. I called their names, my voice sharp against the stillness. Ethan? Kids? His side of the bed was barely touched. He'd slipped out hours ago. I checked their rooms. Sophie's bed was made, her usual mess of clothes gone. Liam's soccer cleats weren't by the door and his backpack was missing. My stomach twisted as I hurried downstairs. The kitchen was pristine, no dishes, no half-eaten toast. I yanked open the fridge. Orange juice, eggs, the fancy sourdough Ethan swore he'd use for my birthday French toast, all untouched. That's when I noticed the little things. Their toothbrushes weren't in the bathroom. The suitcase we kept in the hall closet was gone. Sophie's sneakers, the ones she'd begged for last month, weren't by the front door. I sank onto the couch, surrounded by photos that suddenly felt like lies. Us at Liam's last game, Sophie's Sweet 16, Ethan's arm around me at his company picnic. My phone was upstairs and I bolted to grab it, hoping for a text, a call, anything. There were birthday messages from my old editor, my sister, a couple of mom friends from the PTA, nothing from Ethan, nothing from the kids. I fired off a text to him, "Where are you guys?" Delivered, no reply. To Sophie, "Honey, what's going on?" Blue ticks, she'd seen it. Then nothing. To Liam, "Buddy, tell me where you are." Read. Silence. My hands were trembling as I opened Instagram. Sophie's obsessed with it. Posts every meal, every mood. Her latest update loaded, and my breath stopped. There they were. Ethan, Sophie, Liam, beaming in front of the Eiffel Tower. The caption hit me like a slap. Dad took us on a surprise trip because Mom's too busy writing her stuff. Paris, they were in Paris. More photos loaded. Ethan with a glass of red wine at some chic bistro. The kids grinning by a carousel, their suitcases in a hotel lobby that screamed money. All posted overnight while I slept, oblivious. Too busy writing her stuff? I'd been home all week, editing a piece about local artists, planning a quiet dinner for us. I'd even asked Sophie if she wanted to bake a cake together. She'd shrugged and said, "Maybe." I slid down to the floor, the phone still in my hand, rereading that caption. Too busy. Ethan's smirk in the photos, so smug, so carefree. The kids laughing like this was normal, like leaving me behind on my birthday was no big deal. My chest ached as I scrolled back through our life. The late nights I'd stayed up with Sophie's fevers, the articles I'd written while Liam napped, the way I'd cheered Ethan on through every promotion. Had I missed something? Was I really too busy for them, or was that just what he'd told them to make this okay? I didn't have answers yet, but the hurt was starting to burn into something else, something sharper, something I could use. I don't know how long I sat there on the floor, the phone screen dimming in my hand, Sophie's caption looping in my head like a bad song. Too busy writing her stuff? It wasn't just the words. It was the casual way she'd tossed them out there, like I was some afterthought they'd all agreed to ditch. Ethan's smile in those Paris photos gnawed at me too. He looked happier than I'd seen him in months. Something was wrong, deeper than a surprise trip. I needed answers, and I wasn't going to find them staring at family pictures that suddenly felt like props in someone else's play. Ethan's home office was my first stop. He'd always been weird about me going in there, said it was his sanctuary from the chaos of kids and deadlines. The door was unlocked and his laptop sat on the desk, lid half open like he'd left in a rush. My heart pounded as I slid into his chair, the leather creaking under me. I tapped the keyboard and the screen flickered to life. Password prompt. I tried our anniversary date, the one he'd used for everything back when we shared a Netflix account. It worked. He hadn't bothered to change it, probably figured I'd never snoop. His desktop was a mess of folders, client pitches, expense reports, some random vacation pics. I clicked around, not even sure what I was looking for, until I spotted an email app buried in the dock. The inbox loaded, and my breath caught. Hundreds of messages, most from work, but one name kept popping up in bold. Julia Carter. My stomach dropped. Julia, my Julia. We'd been inseparable back in my reporting days, chasing scoops and splitting cheap wine in our tiny apartment. She'd left journalism a few years ago for a cushy consulting gig in advertising, and we'd drifted apart. Last I'd heard, she was single, jetting around for clients. Why was she emailing my husband? I opened the thread, dated a month back. Can't wait for Thursday, she'd written. Same spot? Ethan's reply, wouldn't miss it. Kids think I'm at a late meeting. My mouth went dry. Thursday nights. His client dinners that had become so regular I'd stopped asking about them. I kept scrolling, each message a little knife twist. Hotel receipts forwarded from his work email to hers. Nights in Buckhead 10 minutes from our house, when he'd told me he was stuck at the office. Photos of them at some rooftop bar, her blonde hair catching the light, his arm slung around her like it belonged there. Then the Paris plan. Told Lauren it's a birthday surprise, he'd written 2 weeks ago. She'll never suspect. Kids are in, Sophie's already packing. Julia's response, perfect. A week without her nagging will do you good. Nagging? I'd been asking him to fix the damn garage door for a month, sure, but nagging? That's what he called me behind my back? I dug deeper, finding a hidden chat app he'd tucked into a folder labeled taxes. The messages there were worse. Raw, intimate, the kind of stuff that made me want to hurl the laptop across the room. She's so predictable, he typed last week. Always hunched over her writing like it's some big deal. You're the spark I need, Jules. Julia's reply. Paris will be our reset. Tell the kids it's a treat because she's too busy. Sophie'll eat it up. My hands shook as I read that. Too busy. He'd fed that line to our daughter, turned me into the boring mom they could ditch without a second thought. There were flight confirmations, too. 3 tickets to Paris, booked 6 weeks ago with our joint savings account. 6 weeks of lying to my face while I planned a quiet birthday at home. The worst part wasn't even the affair, it was how he'd roped Sophie and Liam into it. A text from 3 days ago. Sophie, tell Mom you're sleeping over at Mia's Friday night. Liam, say you've got a game out of town. I'll handle the rest. He'd orchestrated this like some marketing campaign, every detail polished to keep me in the dark. I thought about Sophie's shrug when I'd asked about baking that cake. Liam's quiet, yeah, sure, when I'd offered to drive him to practice. They hadn't just gone along. They'd lied for him. My kids, my heart, turned into his accomplices. I sat back, staring at the screen, the pieces clicking together. Julia's laugh at our last Christmas party, too loud, too close to Ethan while I was stuck refilling the punch bowl. The way he'd started wearing that cologne I hated, the one he swore was for clients every Thursday. The little digs lately, calling my freelance pieces cute hobbies, asking why I didn't get out more. He wasn't just cheating, he was erasing me, rewriting our life so I didn't fit anymore. And Julia, she'd been my maid of honor, cried with me when Sophie was born. Now she was sipping wine in Paris with my husband, laughing at how easy I was to fool. The hurt was still there, sharp and heavy, but something else was growing underneath it. Anger, cold and clear. I wasn't predictable. I wasn't boring. I'd been a damn good reporter once, the kind who could sniff out a story from a mile away. And this was a story I'd bury him with. I grabbed my phone, ignored the flood of Ethan's missed calls, and started snapping pictures of the screen. Every email, every text, every receipt. He thought he could leave me behind on my birthday and waltz off with my kids and my best friend? He had no idea who he'd just pissed off. The laptop screen glowed in the dim office. Julia's flirty texts and Ethan's smug replies staring back at me like a dare. My birthday was supposed to be a celebration. 42 years of building a life, raising 2 kids, keeping a marriage afloat. Instead, I was alone, piecing together how my husband and my ex-best friend had turned me into a punchline. But I wasn't going to sit here and sob into a glass of wine. I'd been a reporter once. Digging up dirt was my specialty. If Ethan thought he could bury me under his lies, he'd forgotten who he married. I started with what I had, screenshots of his emails, those damning chats with Julia, the receipts he'd been dumb enough to leave on his laptop. It was a solid start, but I needed more. Ethan's whole world was Horizon advertising, his corner office, his expense account, the way he strutted around like some marketing god. If I could hit him there, he'd feel it deeper than any shouting match. I remembered Greg, a guy I'd worked with back in my newsroom days. He'd moved into IT last I heard, and owed me a favor after I'd tipped him off about a job opening at Horizon years ago. I found his number in an old email chain and dialed, my voice steady despite the adrenaline pumping through me. "Lauren? Holy crap, it's been forever," Greg answered, his voice warm but curious. "Happy birthday, right?" "Yeah, thanks," I said, forcing a smile he couldn't see. "Listen, I need a favor. It's complicated. You still at Horizon?" "Yep, running the IT crew. What's up?" I took a breath. "I'm working on something. Call it a personal project. I need access to Ethan's work email and any security footage from the office. Discreetly. Can you help?" There was a pause, the kind that told me he was weighing how weird this was. "That's not exactly standard, Lauren. What's going on?" "Remember that scoop I fed you about the data breach at the Tribune? Got you that gig. I just need a quick look. Nothing traced back to you. It's important." He sighed, but I could hear him caving. "All right, I can set up a secure link. Expires in 24 hours. What dates?" "Thursday nights last 2 months. Start with his office camera." "Got it. I'll email you a login. And Lauren, be careful whatever this is." The link came through 10 minutes later, and I poured myself a coffee, black, no sugar, the way I used to drink it when I was chasing deadlines. I clicked in, and the Horizon security interface popped up, all sleek grids and timestamps. I picked last Thursday 7 p.m. outside Ethan's office. The footage rolled. Employees trickling out, lights dimming. Then Julia appeared, heels clicking down the hall, carrying 2 coffees. She didn't knock, just walked into his office like she owned it. I switched to the interior cam, and there they were, Ethan leaning back in his chair, grinning as she handed him a cup. They talked shop for a minute, some campaign pitch, but then he stood, pulled her close, and kissed her. Not a hesitant peck, but a deep, familiar kiss, like they'd done it 100 times. My stomach churned, but I kept watching. They moved to the couch, his couch, the one he'd bragged about expensing for client meetings. Clothes stayed on mostly, but it was clear this wasn't their first rodeo. Afterward, as Julia fixed her hair, she laughed. "Paris is gonna be perfect. Lauren still clueless?" Ethan smirked, adjusting his tie. "Thinks I'm planning a big birthday thing at home. Kids are sold. Sophie's already posting pics." Julia's voice turned sharp. "You sure she won't poke around? She used to be good at that." Ethan snorted. "Her? She's too busy scribbling her little articles. Hasn't sniffed out a real story in years." That stung. More than the kiss, even. I'd given up chasing Pulitzers for him, for our family, and he was mocking it. I pulled up 3 more Thursdays. Same routine, same couch, same smug banter. One night, he handed her a velvet box, a necklace, glittering under the office lights. "For Paris," he said. I recognized the charge from his laptop. $1,200, billed as client entertainment. Another night they laughed about me over takeout, Julia saying, "She's so domestic now, she's baking you a cake while we're here." Ethan's reply, "Let her. Keeps her out of my hair." I had enough. I downloaded the clips, timestamped them, and paired them with the laptop evidence. Emails about Paris, fake expense reports, chats plotting to ditch me. Horizon had a strict ethics code. I'd seen it when Ethan dragged me to some company dinner years ago. No affairs with colleagues, no misusing funds. Violation meant instant termination. I opened my laptop, drafted an email to the board, keeping it cold and factual. Subject: ethics breach. Ethan Mitchell. Attached evidence shows repeated misconduct, inappropriate relationship with consultant Julia Carter, misuse of company resources, and falsified expenses. See Section 4.2 of Horizon Policy. I attached the videos, the receipts, the works, and sent it from a burner account I'd made on my phone. 45 minutes later, my phone lit up. Ethan, calling over and over. I let it buzz, watching the tally climb. 20 calls, 30, 50. Texts flooded in. "Lauren, what the hell? Pick up now. My email's locked. Did you do this?" I smiled, sipping my coffee. An automated Horizon alert pinged my inbox. User Ethan Mitchell at horizonads.com, access revoked. Then a text from Greg. "Board's freaking out, security's on his floor, what did you do?" I didn't reply. I was too busy calling a locksmith to change every door in the house. My house, inherited from Mom, not his. Next, I rang the bank. Froze our joint accounts, citing suspicious activity. Every move was a brick in the wall I was building between us. By evening, Ethan's messages turned desperate. "Please, Lauren, talk to me. I'm begging you." 90 calls now and counting. I didn't answer, not yet. He'd left me alone on my birthday, thinking I'd just take it. But I wasn't the predictable little wife he'd painted me as. I'd been a reporter who could topple careers with a single story, and he was about to find out I still had that fire in me. 3 days after I sent that email, the house was quiet again, but this time it was my quiet. The locks were new, the bank accounts were locked down, and Ethan's stuff sat in boxes in the garage. My phone had stopped buzzing. After 112 missed calls and a string of frantic texts, he'd gone silent. I figured he was still in Paris, scrambling to explain to Sophie and Liam why their dream trip was falling apart. I didn't care. I'd spent the day with a pot of coffee and a notepad, jotting down every lie he'd told, every move I'd make next. The hurt hadn't gone away, but it was fuel now. Not a Around 9 p.m., headlights swept across the driveway. I stepped onto the porch, the cool Atlanta air brushing my face, and watched an Uber pull up. Ethan climbed out first, his suit wrinkled, his hair a mess, nothing like the polished guy who'd posed with wine in Paris. Sophie and Liam trailed behind, dragging suitcases, their faces tight with exhaustion and something else. Confusion. Maybe guilt. Ethan spotted me standing there, arms crossed and his jaw clenched. "Lauren," he started, his voice low and rough. "What the hell did you do?" I didn't flinch. I know exactly what I did. Do you? Sophie stepped forward, her teenage defiance flickering. "Mom, why didn't you answer us? Dad said there was some emergency." She cut off, glancing at Ethan, who wouldn't meet her eyes. "There was," I said, my tone calm but sharp, "just not the kind he's spinning." I pulled a folder from under my arm, the one I'd spent hours filling with printouts, and handed Ethan the top page. It was a still from the Horizon security cam, him and Julia tangled up on that damn office couch, no mistaking what was happening. His hand jerked, trying to crumple it, but not before Sophie caught a glimpse. Her eyes widened, a small gasp slipping out. "Dad?" Her voice cracked, uncertain. "It's not what it looks like," he stammered. "The lamest line in the book." "It's exactly what it looks like," I shot back. I handed Sophie and Liam copies of their own Instagram posts. Sophie's "too busy" caption, Liam's goofy selfie by the Louvre with "best dad ever" scrawled underneath. "While I was home, alone, thinking you were planning something sweet for my birthday, your father was using you to cover up his affair with Julia Carter." Liam's face crumpled, his voice barely a whisper. "Julia? Like your friend Julia?" "Yeah, buddy," I said, softer, hating how this was hitting him. "My friend. For months, he's been sneaking around with her, telling me I'm boring, too busy, not worth his time, and he dragged you both into it." Ethan's head snapped up. "Don't do this in front of them, Lauren. Let's talk inside." "The locks are changed," I cut him off. "And they're staying for this. They deserve to know why their Paris trip got cut short." I turned to the kids, keeping my voice steady. "You remember Thursday nights?" "Client dinners," he said. "Turns out he was with her, on that couch, in hotels, spending our money. He took you to Paris to hide it, fed you lines about me so you'd play along." Sophie's defiance melted, her eyes filling up. "He told me to write that caption, said you'd think it was funny later." She stared at the paper in her hands, her own words staring back. "I didn't know, Mom, I swear." "I told him we should call you," Liam said, tears streaking down his face, "before we left. He said you'd be fine, that you needed a break. I didn't want to go without you." My chest ached, but I held it together. "I know, Liam, he needed you to sell his story. Told you I was too busy so he could run off with her." I looked at Ethan, who was pacing now, hands in his hair. "How'd that work out for you?" "This is ridiculous," he snapped, stepping toward the door. "We're all tired. Let us in and we can sort this like adults." "Like the adult who ditched his wife on her birthday?" I said, my voice rising just enough. "Or the one who expensed jewelry for his girlfriend with our savings? The house is mine. Mom left it to me, not you. Kids can come in. Your stuff's in the garage. Find somewhere else." Liam moved first, brushing past me with his bag, his shoulders hunched. I unlocked the door with the new key and let him through. Sophie hesitated, caught between us, her eyes darting to Ethan. "Dad, tell her it's not true, please." Ethan's face twisted, something ugly breaking through. Your mom's lost it, Soph. She's jealous, trying to ruin us because she can't handle me needing space. I laughed, a short, bitter sound. Space? Check his phone, Sophie. Look for Julia's name. Don't touch my... Ethan lunged, but Sophie was faster. She grabbed his phone from his jacket pocket. He hadn't even locked it, the idiot. Her thumbs flew across the screen and her face went pale. "Oh my God," she whispered, dropping it like it burned. "You said she was just a work friend. You lied to us." She stumbled past me into the house, sobs shaking her shoulders. Ethan stood there alone, his facade cracking. "You've ruined everything," he hissed. "My job, my life." "You did that," I said, stepping closer. "Every Thursday night. Every lie you fed our kids. Every dime you spent on her. You thought I'd just sit here and take it?" He didn't answer, just stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. Maybe he was. The woman he'd married wasn't the pushover he'd banked on. I turned and walked inside, locking the door behind me. Through the window, I saw him slump against the Uber, head in his hands. The kids were upstairs, Liam's quiet crying, Sophie's muffled apologies through her door. We'd talk soon, but not tonight. Tonight, I'd won. The days after that porch showdown felt like waking up from a long, bad dream. Ethan's world unraveled faster than I'd expected. Horizon didn't just fire him, they made sure the industry knew why. Word spread like wildfire through Atlanta's tight-knit ad scene, and his phone stopped ringing. No more client lunches, no more golf weekends at the country club. Julia vanished too. Word was she'd taken a job in Chicago, cutting Ethan loose the second his expense account dried up. I didn't feel sorry for him. He'd built his cage. I'd just locked the door. Inside our house, my house, things were messier. Sophie barely left her room, her usual spark dimmed by guilt and betrayal. "I'm so sorry, Mom," she whispered one night, clutching a mug of tea I'd brought her. "He said you didn't want to come, that you were happier working." Liam was clingier, shadowing me like he was scared I'd disappear if he blinked. "I hated Paris," he admitted, curled up on the couch. "It felt wrong without you." Their hurt mirrored mine, but it wasn't their fault. Ethan had played us all, and now we had to pick up the pieces together. I called my old friend Rachel, a divorce lawyer who'd always said I was too good for Ethan. Over coffee, she laid out my options. Our prenup had an infidelity clause, and with the evidence I'd gathered, Ethan didn't stand a chance. We filed papers to keep the house and primary custody of the kids. I didn't want his money, just a clean break. By the end of the month he'd signed, his signature shaky on the dotted line. He moved into a bland downtown apartment, a far cry from the life he'd chased with Julia. I heard he was pitching freelance gigs, but no one was biting. His charm didn't work without a title to back it up. I wasn't dancing on his grave, though. I had my own scars to tend. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Ellis, who had this quiet way of cutting through my defenses. "You've been living for them, Ethan, the kids, the house," she said in our first session. "Who's Lauren now?" I didn't have an answer at first, but I started looking. I dug out my old sketchbooks, the ones I'd abandoned when Sophie was a toddler, and spent evenings doodling, nothing fancy, just lines and colors that felt like mine. I joined a writing group, not the fluffy book club Ethan used to mock, but one where women shared raw, real stories. I wrote about the birthday that broke me, and when I read it aloud, the room was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. They got it. They saw me. The kids and I found new rhythms. Friday nights became movie marathons. Liam picked superhero flicks, Sophie leaned into rom-coms, and I snuck in old thrillers. We'd vote on pizza toppings, sprawl on the couch, and laugh until our sides hurt. Sunday mornings were for pancakes. No rush, no Ethan barking about his schedule. Sophie started opening up, telling me how Ethan had spun his lies, how he'd made her think I was checked out. Liam just wanted to know I wasn't going anywhere. "You're stuck with me, kid," I told him, ruffling his hair. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Then, 3 months after the divorce, I got a call from Horizon. Not Ethan's old boss, but a woman named Carla, head of their ethics board. "We're starting a compliance program," she said. "Your name came up, your reporting background, the way you handled things. We'd like you to consult." I almost laughed. The place that had been Ethan's kingdom wanted me? But I thought about it, talked it over with Dr. Ellis, with Rachel, and said yes to an interview. Walking into Horizon's glass tower felt strange, like stepping into a battlefield I'd already won. They offered me a role, part-time, flexible, using my old investigative skills to keep their execs in line. I took it, not as a trophy, but as a chance to be Lauren again, not just mom or Ethan's ex. My 43rd birthday rolled around on a crisp April morning. No cryptic promises, no grand gestures, just Sophie and Liam banging on my door with a tray of slightly burnt waffles and orange juice. "We practiced," Liam said proudly, while Sophie shushed him, pointing to the dining room. They decked it out with paper streamers and a banner that read, "Mom's Year 1." My parents showed up with my favorite lemon cake. Rachel brought a stack of art supplies, and friends from the writing group dropped by with books and wine. We ate, laughed, and danced to Sophie's playlist until the neighbors probably hated us. As I blew out the candles, 43 of them, because Liam insisted, I didn't wish for anything. I already had it. A life that was mine, messy and real. Later, standing in the backyard, I'd started gardening again. I watched the sunset paint the sky pink and gold. The roses I'd planted were budding, stubborn little things pushing through the dirt. Like me, I thought. Ethan's betrayal had cracked me open, but what grew back was stronger. He'd promised a birthday that would knock my socks off, and in a twisted way, he'd delivered. It wasn't the gift he'd planned, but it was the one I needed. Truth, fire, and a chance to start over.